You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell. It's Wednesday night, September 5th, 2008, and you're watching us here on the Liberty One Network exclusively. My friends, I've got a horrible story to bring to you tonight. There's a genocide going on in South Africa right now against white farmers known as the Boers. They are the descendants of the original Dutch settlers from the 1600s. And my guest tonight grew up in South Africa, lived there for 55 years, a very good friend of mine named Karen Smith, and the story that she told me this afternoon is going to break your heart. When the interview was over, Karen told me about some of the personal losses that she's had. She didn't talk about it during the interview because she doesn't want the focus to be on her. She just wants to get this information out there. But the things that she told me that had happened to her and her family just destroyed me. After we hung up, I spent a good 5 minutes bawling. You know, too often in history, there are evils that need to be confronted. You're going to see some of those evils tonight. We don't often get a chance to fight back. Last time we really fought back as a nation against a global threat or a really evil plot was in World War II with the Nazis. Fascism swept Europe and took 60 million lives. Hitler killed 6 million Jews. That's 2/3 of the Jewish population in Europe. The definition of a genocide. After World War II, communism began their purges. 100 million dead. We didn't do anything about that. Another communist, Pol Pot, in Cambodia, killed 3 million people. Educated teachers, doctors, and plunged that country into a nightmare right out of the Middle Ages. But we didn't do anything. In Rwanda, the Hutu government killed 1 million Tutsis in 100 days. Mostly by hacking them to death with machetes. And we did nothing. President Clinton did nothing. President Bush stood by and did nothing while Saddam Hussein was committing a genocide against the Kurds, who've been our allies in the Middle East for forever, pretty much. And now there's a genocide being waged against white farmers in South Africa. Are we going to stand by again and let innocent people be killed? 85,000 have been killed so far. And you're not seeing any of it on the mainstream media. With the exception of Tucker Carlson. We talked about it on his show last week. Let's check this out.
We've got an exclusive investigation for you tonight. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has begun, and you may have seen this in the press, seizing land from his own citizens without compensation because they are the wrong skin color. That is literally the definition of racism. Racism is what our elites say they dislike most. Donald Trump is a racist, they say. But they paid no attention to this at all. In fact, Ramaphosa is one of Barack Obama's favorite leaders in the world. In a speech just a few weeks ago, Obama praised him. He praised the racist government of South Africa and Ramaphosa by name for, quote, inspiring hope throughout the country. Does our current bureaucratic elite agree with that? Apparently they do. We called over to the State Department for comment on South Africa's land seizures which should be getting worldwide attention because they are immoral but are getting basically none. And the State Department replied with what is honestly an unbelievable statement. We're going to quote it for you at length. Here it is, quote, "We are aware of these reports and have been following this issue very closely for some time. South Africa is a strong democracy with resilient institutions, including a free press and an independent judiciary. South Africans are grappling with the difficult issue of land reform through an open process, including public hearings, broad-based consultations, and active civil society engagement. President Ramaphosa has pledged that the land reform process will follow the rule of law and its implementation will not adversely affect economic growth, agricultural production, or food security." End quote. State Department did not mention that by following the rule of law, he has changed the country's constitution to make it possible to steal land from people because they are the wrong skin color. In other words, nothing to see here, says Mike Pompeo's State Department. It's totally okay for South Africa to steal property for racist reasons because they are, quote, a strong democracy and held, quote, public hearings. Criminals, take note, find a buddy, start robbing State Department employees on their way to work. By their logic, as long as you outnumber them, they'll be okay with getting robbed because it's democracy.
But even though the State Department had such a milquetoast response, President Trump let Tucker know that he was paying attention with this tweet. Even though most of the mainstream media has been totally ignoring the violence and genocide that's occurring right now in South Africa, they had no problem jumping on President Trump once again for being a racist.
Change the subject. It is definitely a tactic the president uses. He tries to change the subject. And many, not all, but many of the stories that he tries to highlight exploit racial divisions and create that kind of discomfort. Whereas other presidents try to heal, this president tries to divide and exploit racial divisions, which leads him open to the charge that he is racist or engaging in racist conduct. And this is just the very latest example. I mean, a couple things are going on at the same time here, right? On one level, he's just watching Fox News and making decisions based on what he sees on Fox. So running the government via Fox News talk shows. On another level, he is playing white identity politics. He's tapping into a feeling that he knows many of his fans have, a feeling of grievance and fear among white working class voters in America about changing demographics. And that's what Fox News was doing too with this Tucker Carlson segment. The president apparently watched it, saw the segment about South Africa, and then reacted to it.
I do know that he prefers white people over black people. You know, I do know that he has said on multiple occasions that, you know, he doesn't want black people involved in the counting of his money or, you know, involved in the running of his world. I do know that he has specifically gone out of his way with these companies to oppress black people. I do know that he hasn't been as quick to react in the aid of black people as he has been with others. I do know that he has supported and continues to retweet white supremacists on his Twitter account. So I always say to people, I go, you tell me. It's weird because America is the kind of place where someone can get more offended at you calling them a racist than at the fact that they are a racist. And that's become like a new thing that I've stumbled across. People, how dare you call me a racist? And I go, well, how dare you be racist? And that's the world that Donald Trump is in.
So he divides our country, and now he's working on others. Eddie Glaude and then Sam. Jump in. Well, Eddie, you first.
Well, this is consistent. Look, the only words we get out of Donald Trump's mouth about predominantly African countries or African-descended countries is that they're S-hole countries. Or in this instance, he's really trafficking in conspiracy theories to kind of, in some ways, feed red meat to his base. This is nonsense. It's silly. But it's consistent with the kind of cultural warrior that he is. Because at the same time that he's doing this with regards to South African white farmers, I think 2 of them perhaps might have been killed in some instance, with the majority of folks who have been subject to any kind of violence, and this is non-white farmers in this instance. He's also, shall we say, playing the card with regards to the Molly Tibbet murder, this horrific this horrific murder in Iowa. He's saying that this is a result of not having the wall. Here, this is a morally debased man who will do anything to protect himself and to divert attention from the fact that he has been noted as a non-indicted co-conspirator in a felony. So this is just an example of how bad he is as a human being.
See how bad they are, folks? They will bury a genocide so that they can call Donald Trump a racist. They're sickening. And they call it a conspiracy theory that these white farmers are being murdered. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not a conspiracy theory. Two people didn't die, Eddie. You lying maggot. 85,000 white farmers have been killed. I'm going to introduce you to their killers right now. First is Cyril Ramaphosa. He's the president of the African National Congress and the president of South Africa.
Donald Trump must leave us alone. He must leave us alone, Kaori. When we were facing apartheid, when we were facing oppression, he was not here. He did not fight side by side with us. And we were able, on our own, yes, with support of progressive forces in the world, to resolve the apartheid question. As far as I recall, Donald Trump was not around the negotiating table when we negotiated the end of apartheid. So stick around there in the White House. We will do our business here and we will find solutions for our problems. So stay out of our issues and we will not get involved in your issues in America.
The guys that you're going to see in green belong to Black Lands First, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party in South Africa. The guys in the red shirts are economic freedom fighters, and they're led by a man by the name of Julius Malema, and he is a real piece of work.
Shoot to kill, Umasa. Shoot to kill, kill him. Kiss the poor, the farmer. Kiss the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa. Brr, pa, pa. Attention.
Malema is a hardcore communist and an anti-Semite.
There's a group of white right-wingers who are being trained by Jews in Pretoria to be snipers. Snipers. They are not training guns. In the EFF, we are training toy guns. They're dealing with real stuff. They are training in a farm in Pretoria. We know it. To be snipers. So we know that death is the first price we are prepared to pay.
We're going to meet some of these white supremacists trained by Jews in just a moment. And it's a good thing that they're arming up and preparing to defend themselves. Because this guy's coming after them. And he's a member of parliament.
Want to hit them hard. Go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain. We are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Afrikaner boys, don't push us too far. The group of Afrikaners who still wish for apartheid, they will never see it. Afrikaner boys, the Popesal dance. The EFF is coming for you, boys. Afrikaner boys, the ANC has made you to think this thing is still Orange Free State. This thing is not Orange Free State. This is Free State. When we take over power, Afrikaner males, you will know your place. Just pray. Pray to ancestors. Pray to Malan. Pray to Verwoerd. Pray and ask them for EFF not to come into power. Because we come into power, Afrikaner male, this side, this is where you belong. This is how you're going to behave.
Not even Hitler was so bold as to tell the world that he was coming to exterminate the Jews. But the black South Africans in power don't have that problem. They are very bold. And they don't care. They'll tell the world that they're coming to kill the white South African farmers. And the mainstream media says nothing. This is why it is important for you to watch shows like The Truth is Viral and all the other shows right here on the Liberty One Network, because it's the only place you're going to get the real truth, folks. You have to like, comment, and share all of our videos so that we can spread the word and hopefully save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ in these very last days. And when I say save lives, I mean that in a very literal sense. These people in South Africa, these white farmers, the Boers, they are in danger of being wiped out. And we've got to let the world know about it. We've got to let President Trump know that we support him in whatever he does, because you know how he is. He's not gonna brook that kind of nonsense. He's not like any other president that we've ever had. And I pray for him to have the wisdom to fix this somehow. Maybe bring the white South African farmers to the United States. They are literally like the Jews in World War II. They're homeless, classless. The laws in South Africa have they're basically Nazi laws. And we've got to do something about it, my friends. So we count on you to get the word out. And when I come back, we're going to meet some of the South Africans that have suffered at the hands of blacks that have stolen their farms, killed farmers, raped women and children, and then killed them in the most horrific ways. We're going to meet the militias that are standing up against this horror. And we're going to speak with my dear friend Karen Smith, who lived in South Africa for 55 years. Went through apartheid, the whole 9 yards. So I would consider her somewhat of an expert on the subject. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
I'm Pete Santilli, and you're watching The Truth is Viral.
Do not click away. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
I had pre-recorded my interview with Karen Smith earlier today, but I have no idea where it went. I swear it just disappeared right off my computer. But we've got her live right now, and I'd like to bring her on because she's somewhat of an expert in South African affairs. Born in Rhodesia and lived for 55 years in South Africa. And she's gone through apartheid, the reconciliation committees where Nelson Mandela, basically forgave the white farmers and the white government of South Africa for the alleged crimes that they had been committing. But that was 24 years ago. And things have changed a lot. As you see, the communists have taken over South Africa. The Black Land Party and Malima's thugs. You've seen what they do. You've seen with their own speech how they are planning to come after white South African farmers. And it's just, what's been going on is just horrific. And it can't be allowed. And we've got to spread this message everywhere that we can. And with that, I'd like to bring on my friend, Karen. How are you doing tonight, sweetheart?
I'm great, Bobby. Third time lucky.
Yeah, well, yeah, things happen, but that's okay. As a Marine, I was always taught to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So here we are overcoming the technological faux pas, and we're just gonna go ahead and do it live. And first, I want to know, how did we get to this point? As I said, well, to my everlasting shame, I have not been keeping up on this story. And the last, really, that South Africa was in the news for me, other than the death of Nelson Mandela, was the Truth and Reconciliation Committees and the end of apartheid. But that was a long time ago. So how did we get to this point where the government is crafting laws to literally steal the land of the white Boer farmers that have been there since the 1600s, the original settlers, actually, and how they're empowering these thugs to just rape, kill, steal, and destroy? How did we get there?
Well, Bobby, it's always been my idea that this South African story is a blueprint for the rest of the world. So what they did in South Africa was they rolled out all these things very slowly, like the water dripping on a rock, that eventually wears it away. And they rolled it out slowly in small increments to see whether the white people would stand up and protest and whether the rest of the world would come in and try and stop them. But nobody did anything about it. Nobody noticed. Nobody talked about South Africa except as this marvelous rainbow nation of Saint Mandelas, So it started, like any socialist place, by disarming the public. Now, under the previous government, you had to have a firearm license. So when the ANC took over, lo and behold, they had this wonderful database of where you lived and what firearms you had. So they gave us, if your surname began with A, you had until this date to go and hand your firearms in at the local police station. The agreement was they would lock them up in gun safes. You would apply for a new license under the ANC. Once you got that license, you go back to the police station, get your firearm back, and everything would be back to normal. However, there are people still waiting 24 years later for their replacement gun licenses.
Isn't that the way that totalitarian governments always take power? First by seizing the guns.
Absolutely. So, what is happening is those firearms have disappeared from the police lockups. They've been found at crime scenes, all kinds of things. But on top of that, You can rent a firearm from select police stations at about $5 a day. And you can be quite sure that nobody who rents a firearm is going about the illegal business. But that's how it happens in South Africa. On top of that, those lucky few who did get licenses, people on game farms and things like that, they got licenses. There were about 300,000 of them. They had to renew their licenses. But when the time came for firearm license renewal, the ANC messed the people around so badly. They kept changing the dates. The offices were closed. The paperwork wasn't available, and so on and so on and so on, until you were well over your expiry date of your license. Now they announced about 3 weeks ago, I think, that those remaining 300,000 licensed firearms have to be handed into the police because they are no longer legal. So the entire white population will be disarmed. But on top of that, we had a kind of militia. They were called the Commando Corps, and they protected the farmers because the nature of the ground and farming in South Africa is very harsh. We have a terribly dry climate. You need a huge property to farm successfully. So we had the Commando Corps that protected the farmers, and the ANC said we must disband it with the agreement that they would then organize a portion of the police to take over those duties. Well, that also didn't happen. So these farmers are left out there dangling like ripe fruit, waiting to be murdered, which is what started happening. So since 1994, we have a verified 4,000 white farmers have been murdered, tortured to death on their farms. But that was still not enough for the ANC. So they started telling their people, in fact, everybody, including the whites at school, that whites are murderers and thieves, and we stole the land from them. So under the Constitution, the ANC can take a farm and give it back to its supposed original owner, but they have to give you fair market value for the farm. So a large number of farms, a black tribe would come to the ANC and say, listen, my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather grazed his goats on that property, and these whites came and stole it from us, so he couldn't graze his goats anymore. It's our property. And the land would be given to them automatically. Now, a lot of those farmers have not been compensated yet. And the trouble with this method is that the blacks do not want the land. They want money. So the farms that they're given, they chop down. There was one farm, Zebedelia. It was the biggest money-making citrus farm in Southern Africa. If you ate an orange in this country, in Israel, anywhere in the world, it probably came from Zebedelia. It brought in millions of foreign exchange. So this farm was given back to the black tribes. Within a year, they had cut down all the trees. They had taken apart all the buildings. They were putting their cattle, using the houses as cattle pens. So these farms, and the other one, a good example, is a tea farm near Zanin. It was enormous. It was beautiful. Just rolling hills of this green, lush tea. And it employed hundreds of people. But they gave it to the blacks. It is now barren land. So they have shot themselves in the foot and are going to starve. But that still was not enough for them. According to the government, transformation is not happening fast enough. And it is essential to give the land back to the blacks. So earlier this year, they decided that they were going to change the constitution so that they could take the land without compensation. But do not fool yourself. This is not just farmers. This is your home in town, your business property, your furniture, your car, your intellectual property. Everything you own can be taken from you without compensation.
That's just like Nazi Germany. Absolutely 100% just like it.
It is, totally, totally. So, they formed a committee that had to report back on changing the Constitution by the 1st of August. On the 1st of August, our esteemed President, Cyril Ramaphosa, came out and said they don't really need to change the Constitution, but they are going to start taking the land now. And they put out a list of 139 pilot farms. These are the first farms they're going to take. Now, 2 of those farms, they had already told the farmers that they wanted to give them fair market value for the farms, but they offered them 10% of their market value. So these 2 farms have been in court for a very, very long time. So the ANC said, well, so you're not going to take our fair market value, we're just going to take your farms, and they issued eviction notices. So a team of people looks into these 139 farms, and the one thing they all have in common is that they're all sitting on enormous mineral deposits. Now, these 2 farms are sitting on, I don't know how much coal, but billions of worth of coal. And the coal is to be given, the mineral rights are to be given to the Chinese in order to pay off the loans that the Chinese have given to South Africa, which South Africa cannot repay because of all the rampant corruption that has gone on in that country. So it has nothing to do with giving land back to the blacks. And by the way, the figure that they put out is that white people, who are 8% of the population, own 72% of the land. That is absolutely not true. Their own surveyors have said that 22% of the land is held in white hands. And that is not, I don't think that that's an astronomical figure, considering the size that farms have to be.
Well, even though the farms were owned by white people, didn't they employ a large number of blacks to
Yes.
do the labor?
Yes, Bobby, in South Africa, it's kind of like the laborers are passed down through the generations. So if your grandfather's people worked on my grandfather's farm, you will work on my farm. It just is that way. They become part of the family. So they are given a living wage. They are given a house with running water, electricity, indoor toilets. They are given rations. They are given tobacco. They are given nursing care. Most farms have a farm school for the children. They are part of the family. And they have lived there forever. And they are getting very restive because this is the only life they know, the only place that their families have ever lived, and the farms are going to blacks now, and they have to go away. It's a very dangerous situation. But on top of that, so there are 4,000 farmers that we can verify have been tortured to death. And as far as we can establish, 85,000 other urban white people have been cruelly tortured to death in that same period of time. That is more soldiers than the USA have lost in all the wars they've been in that same period of time. These people are not drive-by shootings, as in Chicago. These people, they come into your house and wait for you to come home. Then they tie up the father, and sometimes they cut off his eyelids so that he cannot close his eyes and look away while they rape and torture his family. They rape the women with broken bottles and sharpened broomsticks. They burn people with boiling oil. They drown children in boiling water. They wrapped a baby in newspaper and put her in the oven. They drilled holes with an electric drill through an 84-year-old disabled woman's legs and watched while she bled out. These people are barbaric. The things that they do are absolutely horrific. And then the government says there's no such thing as murder. It's normal crime, or burglary's gone wrong. Now, in a burglary, they don't normally stay in your house for 3 days, torturing the entire family. And they don't leave without taking anything. So it is not Hercules gone wrong. It is white genocide incited by the government, singing these songs, kill the Boer, kill the white, we're going to drive them into the sea. And people like Julius Malema saying on TV that we are not calling for the murder of all the whites, at least not yet. They are inciting white genocide and telling their people that you cannot steal from a white person because you are only taking back what belonged to you in the first place. So the country is in a terrible state. The corruption is enormous. The economy has tanked. Where it used to be 1 rand for $1, today it's 15 rand and 88 cents to the dollar. They are junk status and below junk status with all the credit agencies. They're going around the world with their begging bowls out and asking people to help them, but also telling people in the UK and in China that it's a wonderful place to invest. Now, how do you tell international business that it's a wonderful place to invest when they have to give, not sell, 51% of their businesses to black partners? Whether that partner has any expertise or any part in the business doesn't matter. They have to own 51% of your business.
Okay. Can I ask you to pause for just a second, because I just pulled up the video of Julius Malema talking about that we're not calling for the killing of white people, at least for now. I'm going to play that for my viewers, and then we'll get back to our discussion.
Alrighty.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we've not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies. Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give you a guarantee of the future, especially when things are going the way they are.
Subtext.
Especially if things are going the way they are, there will be a revolution in this country, I can tell you now. There will be an unled revolution. An unled revolution is the highest form of anarchy.
I'm not sure if anarchy is a great way to run a country, but apparently Julius Malema doesn't care. He just wants white people dead. So please continue with your story. It's horrific.
So, Bobby, as though that were not enough, they also, in the early 1990s, brought in affirmative action, which at the beginning stages everybody thought was pretty fair because the blacks had been, to a large degree, excluded from the job market in South Africa. There were jobs that they did, but were mostly manual labor. So affirmative action seemed like a fair way to redistribute the thing. But that was not enough for the ANC. They then brought in, it's now 3 times later, it's now called Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. And every company has a scorecard, which is scored by the government. So if I print books, my paper supplier and my ink supplier all have to be BBBEE compliant. And being compliant means that your company has to match the demographics of the country. So in every level of your country, of your company, from executive management down to toilet cleaners, it has to be 80% black, a certain percentage Indian, a certain percentage coloreds, a certain percentage others, and 2% white. So the whites who had built up that country and turned it into a splendid economic success and a first world powerhouse were paid off, kicked out of their jobs to be replaced by blacks. Now those whites will never, ever, ever get another job. But that's still not enough for our government. What they did then was decide that as part of your BBBEE compliance, any charity donations you gave had to go to BBBEE compliant charities. So if your charity caters for more than 80% black, less than 80% black, you cannot get charity from any of the big or any company in South Africa. Now, in South Africa, whites do not get child grants. They do not get social security. They do not get any form of aid from the government whatsoever. So once you've lost your job and you've run through your savings, you lose your house, you lose your car, you lose the good schools your children went to, and you end up on the street with no hope of another job ever in your lifetime. So these people started banding together, and for the illusion of safety, because being alone on the streets is guaranteed you're going to die, and formed informal settlements. Some land was given to them by kind farmers, some is rented to them on a daily basis by farmers, and they put up shacks of cardboard boxes, street signs, whatever they can find. Now, these people have got no hope, none whatsoever. And the longer they are in these circumstances, the harder it is to reintegrate them into society. Their look in those children's eyes is terrible. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. And they definitely can't go to school. Because in South Africa, there's no school bus. There's no school meals. You transport your children to school. You pay for schooling. You pay for your books. You pay for your uniforms, because everyone wears a school uniform. And you send your kid to school with a lunch. So if you don't have a place to lay your head tonight, you can't do any of those things. And it is estimated that a third of the white population, 1 million people, are living in those circumstances. Now, with the farms being taken and the properties being taken and companies disinvesting in South Africa, it is going to be a much larger number than that. And I don't know how we are ever going to keep those people alive long enough to find a solution to get them out of South Africa or to keep them safely in South Africa.
I'm not sure that there's any place in South Africa that's safe for white people anymore. It sounds like a racial thing, and it is from the black point of view. They want to genocide the white population, and it's not a bad thing to stand up for innocent people, no matter what color that they are. And that's why we need to share this information, folks. We need to get it out to everywhere that we possibly can, because there is a genocide happening in South Africa right now. What the white people of today are the Jews of World War II, and they need our help. And I'm here to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, I'm with the Israelis. Never again. This cannot be allowed to happen. We stood by and watched as communism killed 100 million people. We stood by and watched as Pol Pot killed 3 million people in Cambodia. We stood by and watched as the Hutus massacred the Tutsis in Rwanda. 1 million people dead in 100 days. That's how fast a genocide can happen. We don't have the luxury of time. We just simply don't. And we have to urge Donald Trump to, I don't know, how about bringing South African farmers here to the United States? I think these are the kind of people that would contribute greatly to our country. Dear Karen, I am really sorry for what your country's going through, for what your family's gone through, and for your friends. I can't do anything except try to help you get this information out, and I'm sure that my viewers will help, because they're good folks. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story with us, and we'll have you back again, and I'm sure that I will be sending you to bigger and better names so that you can also tell them your story. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Bobby, because the story is essential. These things are coming to your country. And if we do not stand up now and save those people, who is going to come and save you?
Nobody. except Jesus Christ. That's the only hope that we've got, because it's just the way it is. Folks, we're gonna take a little break, about just 60 seconds, and when I come back, we're gonna meet some of the victims of this violence, this genocide in South Africa, and those that are standing up to fight against it. We'll be right back.
I'm Pete Santilli, and you're watching The Truth is Viral.
Do not click away. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Yes, what Karen told us was absolutely true. And I need your help to continue to save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ in these very last days. So please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and hit that PayPal button and donate whatever won't put you out towards our stated mission of saving lives and winning souls for Jesus Christ. Now, I'm going to show you some of the victims of this genocide in South Africa. And their stories are just going to absolutely wrench at your heart. Here's a video of soldiers that have come to put this man out of his house. And he was eventually killed.
Until first time you bring back the papers. Ons is mos besig. Ja. Ja, julle kan lekker besig is al uit. Check out your stuff. I'm not saying anything anymore. Mr. will be out of this house. You will never talk to your phone up until we are done because we don't have time. You are not the only person. We still have a lot to do. So we are not going to see 12 of us like we said either other people are not doing it. Concrete here, jy is nog besig gaan aan. En wanneer what is that? Why are we waiting?
For my lawyer.
What attitude, attitude, your attitude, guys, sucks. We can never know that we can never be superior to anyone else. Never. That cannot happen. Yes.
I can't believe that they're complaining about his attitude. This young lady was shot in the face.
At the same time, I went like this, and that's when he shot me. Yeah.
So from October through till April, you had no bottom jaw at all?
Nothing. They first gave me a plaster, like plastic, you know, and this made sores all over my face here. And then I left it, I threw it away, and I took a bandage. And I put bandage and cotton wool here to soak the, and then I tied it here. And I was walking like that until they did the reconstruction.
So for 6 months, you walked around with a bandage and some, whatever you had, cotton stuff onto the bottom of your face.
Yeah.
You must have at some point had your face rebuilt slightly.
Yeah, I had a reconstruction in Albert Lutuli in Durban. That they took everything, the skin and the bone from my leg.
To build your face?
Yeah, to build my face. And then Lita helped me to get to Joburg, speak to the doctors, and then they did the rest.
And there's just this young man.
And thank President Donald Trump for shining a light on the current situation in Southern Africa. I can also confirm that things are definitely bleak. We have regulations and limitations based on our skin color. We have our uncles and aunts and grandmothers and grandfathers and parents on the farms in constant and present danger. It is unfortunate that most of us have lost loved ones.
And there's this young lady.
I'm a Afrikaans speaking Boer meisie. I want to tell President Trump that farm murders are real. Thank you for looking into it. Today on the 1st of September 2018, I just planted my dad's cross here. He was murdered 25th of May 2017. There's over 4,000 crosses on this mountain. This is a monument. If you look down, I'm at the back of it. There are just thousands of crosses and they're all over the mountains. We need help. Thank you, President Trump.
And another one.
Donnie Barnard, I'm 32 years old. I'm a Boer from South Africa, an Afrikaner. And I normally don't do videos like this, but I feel that it is very important for me to get this message out. As you all may notice, President Trump last week Wednesday made a tweet about what is going on in South Africa, and there was a lot of backlash from the fake news mainstream media, especially in the United States. And as a South African Boer, I can tell you guys that it is 100% correct what Mr. Trump said in his tweet. And we do not try to spread any false information, or nor are we right-wing extremists or Nazis as they are calling us. We are only citizens that are fearing for our lives because...
Another one.
My name is Jacques Barnard. I just want to thank Trump for tweeting about South Africa making the world notice. I just want to say to the fake media, sorry. It's happening on a daily basis. It has happened to me numerous of times. We've had a farm invasion. Luckily, my dad was able to save us. My grandfather was murdered on his farm. I've had 2 vehicles stolen from me. I've had a home invasion. Luckily, I wasn't there, but they stole everything. I had another home invasion where they assaulted my mother. Luckily, we were able to fight them off and get them out of the house. So, all we're asking is for you guys to do the research. Find out for yourselves. Don't believe the media. They are lying. They're trying to cover it up. But unfortunately, it's true. People are dying every day in South Africa.
In this young lady.
I see an Afrikaner girl living in South Africa. I want to use this video to thank President Donald Trump for acknowledging what is going on in South Africa. I also want to ask that you please do not listen to the news saying that South African farmers are mad about this tweet or that we want Trump to leave us the hell alone. This is definitely fake, because unfortunately it is a fact, it is true that white farmers are being slaughtered in South Africa and that the government wants to expropriate our land that we love so much without compensation. I also want to ask that you would please make a Boer testimony like this and share it on a platform so that we can get the truth out there.
Yeah, folks, that's our job. We deal in information. And we've got to get this information out because the mainstream media just absolutely is not covering it. There are militias in South Africa that are attempting to stand between these mobs that are killing all these farmers.
White man, right rascal, all of you, you must die.
Hello, I'm Simon Roach, and I represent the world's largest non-state civil defense organization. It's called Uitlanders in South Africa. We represent the white people of South Africa who are presently being told that they can expect to see a genocide against them. They're being told this by their own political leaders, the African National Congress of Nelson Mandela fame, the EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, Marxist Party. Many of you will be familiar with this anti-white narrative, this anti-white dialectic. The government ministers in our country are talking openly about a genocide against white people, a civil war based upon race directed at white people. Government ministers. Just a few days ago, YouTube published a video against whites, racism, all of these things with which you're familiar. It concludes with the words, "It's time to teach whites a hard lesson now." Can you imagine? Around about the 6th of April 2015 in Cape Town, our current president, Jacob Zuma, stated that all of South Africa's problems can be traced back to the arrival of whites in 1652. As one black man put it to me, "You know, Simon, in our ears, that means if you weren't here, everything would be okay. There would be no poverty and there would be no crime." It's an instigation. Jacob Zuma is also known for singing a song which goes, "Kill the farmer, kill the Boer," and another song which runs, "Bring me my machine gun," implying the same purpose. This is our president. This is how we live. He's not alone, though, in his public agitation against whites. On the 7th of November 2016, the leader of the Marxist Economic Freedom Fighters Party in our parliament, Julius Malema, was recorded saying to a crowd of supporters, "I am not calling for the slaughter of whites, yet." As another black man, a leader in South Africa, said to me, that means that he will call upon his supporters to slaughter whites, Simon. Indeed, Julius Malema told another group of supporters that when the EFF party assumes power, the Afrikaner white people of South Africa, who've been here since the 6th of April 1652, will be relegated to a separate status, an apartheid. He said it repeatedly and emphatically. As if that was not enough, one of the heads of the African National Congress's private militia, the Spear of the Nation, or Mkhonto Wesizwe, a man by the name of Themba Mavundla, called upon young blacks to sign up for military training in preparation for an expected war against whites. This is really happening in our country. It gets worse. Our parliamentary record recently admitted the statistic that it is 2.02 times, in other words, more than double, likely that a South African farmer will be murdered than that a South African policeman will die. Some of these things are difficult to talk about. We live in a society that is so perverse that the moment that you examine what's happening, you recoil from it. Let's begin with a 3-year-old girl being raped by 4 men. And as the post-mortem autopsy revealed, she survived that rape. A 3-year-old girl, she survived. So her attackers, her rapists, these grown men, bundled her up in newspaper, poured gasoline on it and set it alight. That's how she died in the end. Or a 4-year-old girl, crucified to her parents' farmhouse's kitchen table, and then raped by 3 men, while her mommy and daddy lay gurgling in their own blood on the kitchen floor. These things happen in South Africa, and they're not isolated incidents. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of such incidents. That's how it is that we get to the statistics that I've been sharing with you. That's how it's possible that the likelihood of a white person in South Africa being murdered by a black person is 1,370% higher than the likelihood of any American being murdered. It's incredible. But that's what we live with every day. That's why we have to take steps to protect ourselves. Because in this country, rape and murder is not a threat. It's not something abstract and remote. It's something that all of us have experienced, directly or indirectly, perhaps an attempted murder. And so when we contemplate civil war, nationwide anarchy in this country, we contemplate it as an imminent reality, something for which we must prepare today. Every little bit of help that we receive from the outside world, from the few friends that we have, because we don't have friends in established political parties, we don't have friends in the media, in big business. The friends we have are the people who are watching this video. And every little bit of your help takes us a step further to protecting the women, children, old people, and non-able-bodied people who are going to suffer the very worst of the war that is coming in South Africa.
So that, folks, is your mission. Go forth and spread this message. Help me save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ in these very last days. Information is power. And we have to let the world know that we are not going to allow another genocide, not under our watch. There's been enough killing. We got to save these folks. Don't forget, if you have the ability, please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and hit that PayPal button. Give me the tools that I need to continue bringing the truth to the world. Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell, and as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah. I'll see you Friday night.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.